Have you ever woken up in the morning, looked in the mirror, and wondered why, no matter how much you achieve or how hard you work, there's still that quiet voice of doubt whispering in the back of your mind? Maybe you've experienced those moments where you walk into a room full of people, and even though no one says a word, you can feel the weight of their eyes, and suddenly your posture changes, your breathing shifts, and you start questioning yourself. You might tell yourself, I just need one big win. I just need something external to finally feel confident. But what if I told you that confidence isn't something you chase? What if real, unshakable confidence isn't found in applause, promotions, or approval from others but is something you build, step by step, through the choices you make every single day? Welcome to today's video, where we're going to uncover 12 powerful daily habits that will completely transform your confidence and reshape your personality. These aren't just theoretical ideas or motivational quotes you'll forget tomorrow. These are practical, actionable habits rooted in ancient Stoic wisdom and backed by modern psychology. And the best part? You don't need special talent, tons of money, or perfect circumstances to practice them. All you need is the willingness to show up for yourself every single day. Let me ask you this. Have you ever met someone who just seems to have that presence? They walk into a room and instantly command attention, not because they're the loudest, not because they're showing off, but because there's something grounded and magnetic about them. It's almost like they radiate calm strength. Here's a little secret. Those people weren't born that way. They've trained themselves, often unconsciously, through habits that send powerful signals to their own minds and to the world around them. And you can do the exact same thing. In this video, we'll explore habits like how you carry yourself physically, your posture, your breathing, your eye contact, and why they matter more than you think. We'll dive into the invisible rituals, like how you treat yourself when no one else is watching, the way you speak to yourself in your own mind, and why small wins matter far more than giant leaps. We'll talk about the power of your social circle, how the people around you either feed your doubt or multiply your confidence, and why learning to say no without guilt is one of the most liberating acts of self-respect you'll ever experience. And finally, we'll explore how your mornings set the tone for your entire life, and how a simple 10-minute ritual can completely shift the trajectory of your day. But before we jump in, let me paint you a picture. Imagine two versions of the same day. In the first version, you wake up late, immediately grab your phone, scroll through notifications, and feel a jolt of anxiety. You rush to get ready, barely eat breakfast, and start the day already behind. Your mind is scattered, every challenge feels overwhelming. By noon, you're exhausted, reactive, and doubting yourself. In the second version, you wake up just 15 minutes earlier. You take a few deep breaths. You stretch or journal for a few minutes. You remind yourself of your priorities. You step into the day with intention instead of panic. Same person, same life, but two completely different outcomes. That difference? It comes down to habits. Confidence is not built in grand, dramatic moments. It's built in the quiet, unseen decisions you make each day. When you stand tall instead of slouching, you're telling your brain, I belong here. When you treat yourself with care instead of neglect, you're sending a message, I am worthy. When you listen deeply to others instead of rushing to speak, you create connection. When you surround yourself with people who lift you higher instead of drag you down, your entire identity shifts. And when you start your mornings with a ritual that centers you, you become unstoppable. This video isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about uncovering the strongest, most authentic version of yourself and letting that person shine. Whether you've struggled with self-doubt for years or you're simply looking to take your personal growth to the next level, these 12 habits will give you the tools you need. And here's the exciting part. As you practice them, you won't just feel more confident, you'll become more confident. People will notice the change, not because you're faking it, but because you're truly embodying it. So, stay with me until the very end, because the last few habits are the ones that will tie everything together. And trust me, once you see how all these pieces fit, you'll never look at confidence the same way again. Before we dive in, if you find value in this video, please like it to let me know. Share it with someone who might need a confidence boost today. And subscribe to this channel so you never miss future videos that can help you grow. And if you really want to support this work, Consider using YouTube's Super Thanks feature. It's a direct way to help me keep creating content like this for you. Are you ready to take control of your confidence and completely transform the way you show up in the world? Let's get started with the very first habit, and remember, every great transformation begins with a single, intentional step. Personality is not a museum piece, it's a workshop. Each day you make small choices: how you stand, how you speak, what you pay attention to, what you refuse, that either add steel to your spine or sand to your doubt. The core claim behind the 12 Habits frame is simple. Confidence is not granted by the crowd, it's grown by routine. If you've ever watched somebody walk into a room and change the air without saying much, you've already seen how habits show up before language. The presence you felt, calm, grounded, quietly assured, was not an accident. It was posture, breath, eye contact, and self-command working in sync. That's where we start, because your body speaks first. When your shoulders are rounded and your chin tilts down, you're broadcasting uncertainty. When your stance is balanced, your head level, your gaze steady, you're sending your nervous system a different message. I'm safe. I belong here. I can look directly at what's in front of me. This is not fake bravado. It's physiological. The way you hold yourself influences breathing depth, which shapes heart rate variability and the ease with which you can access calm speech. Practice it in low-stakes places: waiting in line at the grocery store, walking to your car, stepping into a coffee shop. Keep your feet about hip-width apart. Unlock your knees. Let your shoulders drop instead of arching them back like a soldier. Imagine a string lifting the crown of your head. Look up and forward, not down and away. Think of the posture of a good basketball defender: loose, alert, ready. Do that 5 times a day in ordinary moments and your baseline changes. When you do have to speak, you won't be battling your own body. Eye contact is the next lever, and you can train it like a muscle. In American culture, steady but not staring eye contact reads as confidence and honesty. The trick is to aim for presence, not dominance. You don't need to lock in like you're in a staring contest. Try the triangle method in conversation. Move your gaze naturally between a person's left eye, right eye, and mouth every few seconds. If direct eye contact still feels intense, look between the eyes at the bridge of the nose. Most people can't tell the difference, and you'll feel less exposed. Do small reps everywhere. Thank the barista while meeting their eyes. Hold a beat of eye contact when you say good morning to a colleague when presenting on Zoom. Look at the camera lens for your key sentences. The goal is to teach your brain that being seen is not a threat. If you've ever watched Barack Obama answer tough questions, you've seen this skill at work: calm gaze, full attention, no flinch. You can practice the same composure without copying anyone's style. Self-care is not scented candles, it's respect made practical. Sleep is the most underrated performance enhancer in America. If you're chronically sleep deprived, you're choosing slower recall, shorter fuse, and shakier voice. Going from 5.5 hours to 7 hours doesn't just make you feel better, it changes how you come across. You speak more clearly, you interrupt less, you bounce back from small frustrations faster. Nutrition is the same. You don't need a perfect diet to feel different, you need fewer roller coaster days. Start by eating protein earlier, drinking water throughout the day, and dialing down the pure sugar spikes that give you a 30-minute high and a 2-hour slump. Time in nature sounds like a wellness cliché until you notice that 10 minutes of sunlight and a walk around the block resets your mood better than doomscrolling ever will. The deep point is identity. The way you treat your body is the way you tell your brain who you are. The person who guards sleep, feeds themselves decently, and goes outside is saying, without drama, I'm worth the maintenance. Confidence grows from that message because it's consistent and quiet. A genuine smile is not a performance, it's an alignment. Americans are quick to spot the customer service smile that doesn't reach the eyes. But almost everyone responds to a real one. Think of a flight attendant who remembers your earlier question and checks back with a small, real smile. It signals warmth without effort. Or think of a teacher who greets students at the door with an easy, unforced grin. You trust them more before they've taught a minute of class. You're not trying to grin your way through anxiety. You're practicing a face that tells your nervous system, there's good here. You can train this, too. When you see a neighbor, smile first. When you say, "Thanks," to a cashier, let your eyes soften and your mouth follow. You're not faking positivity, you're choosing to unclench. Over time, your default expression gets friendlier, which changes how people treat you, which reinforces your own ease. Listening more than you speak is not passivity, it's control. The loudest person in the room is rarely the most confident. They're often trying to fill space because silence scares them. The most compelling communicators do three things very well: they pay attention, they pause, and they reflect back what they heard. If someone is explaining a problem at work, you can summarize it cleanly, so it sounds like the real bottleneck isn't the deadline, it's the handoff from marketing to engineering. That single sentence tells the room you understand the pattern, not just the noise. Watch a good interviewer like Oprah or Terry Gross. The strength is in the questions, the genuine curiosity, the lack of rush. You can use the same approach in one-on-ones, stand-ups, and family conversations. Try a simple ratio for a week. Ask 2 clarifying questions before you offer a solution. When you do speak, keep it calm and paced. Record yourself for a minute today, 1 take. No script explaining what you're working on. You'll probably hear filler words and speed. That's normal. Practice again, slower, with more air between phrases. American audiences equate speed with nerves and steady pacing with credibility. You don't need to imitate a news anchor, you need to remove the panic from your cadence. There's a reason people leaned in when Steve Jobs spoke on stage. His pauses let ideas land. Negative self-talk is the habit that quietly undercuts everything else. The voice in your head is not truth, it's practice. If you repeat, "I'm bad at this," 10 times a week, your behavior will follow. Most of us don't notice how often we program ourselves with cheap insults. The fix starts with awareness. Keep a running note on your phone for 1 day and tally each time you say something to yourself you'd never say to a friend. Notice the triggers: a calendar slip, a missed line of code, a slow mile on the treadmill. Then rewrite the line the way a good coach would. Not empty hype. Not fake optimism. Just fair language. "That was rough, but I know how to fix it." This part is confusing, but confusion is the price of learning. In psychology, this is cognitive reappraisal, changing the story around a neutral or negative event to change your emotional response. You've seen top athletes do this on camera after a loss. "We didn't execute. But I love the looks we got. We'll clean it up." That's not spin. That's strategic self-talk. You can do it as a manager, a parent, a student. It's remarkable how much energy returns when you refuse to label yourself the problem. Even a tiny push helps. As one Glass highlight on mental toughness puts it, you often gain energy by spending a little energy. Taking that first small action tends to create the momentum you were trying to think yourself into. Grasp and reframing isn't just pep talk. It's a documented way to reduce stress responses and regain control when your mind is spiraling. A recent resilience piece collected on Grasp puts the emphasis on slowing down to name emotions and then reappraising the situation. Classic Stoic territory updated for modern life. The point is not denial, it's getting your hands back on the wheel. Grasp. Small wins are the engine of self-trust. Americans love big swings: founding a startup, running a marathon, writing a book. Big visions are fine, but they're terrible daily plans. Confidence grows fastest when you give yourself targets so small that success is almost guaranteed and then keep the streak alive. James Clear's "Make It Obvious, Attractive, Easy, and Satisfying" is popular for a reason. It gives your brain a simple loop to follow. Replace "I'll get in shape" with "I'll do 15 minutes of bodyweight work before my morning shower." Replace "I'll become a better writer" with "I'll write 150 words before I open email." Replace "I'll network more" with "I'll send one sincere thank you note this week." A single small promise kept every day does more for your identity than a grand promise kept never. Notice how often your mood improves after you take one tiny step you were avoiding: answering the overdue message, folding the clean laundry, opening the slide deck. Momentum matters more than magnitude. Think of the way The Rock talks about showing up for his workout even on bad days. The point is not the perfect session but the unbroken line of evidence that he's the kind of person who trains. Start with today's line. Dressing with purpose isn't about price tags, it's about cues. Americans form impressions faster than we like to admit, and clothing is one of the first signals they read. You don't need designer labels, you need coherence. The outfit should match the environment and the message you intend to send. If you're pitching a serious product, your clothes should show respect for the audience's time. If you're running a creative workshop, you can be cleaner and more relaxed without being sloppy. Steve Jobs' black turtleneck wasn't a fashion flex, it was a uniform that took decision fatigue off the table and sent a consistent signal. Mr. Rogers' cardigan did the same thing in another register: warmth, safety, attention to detail. Even if you work remotely, dress the part, changes how you feel on camera. Iron the shirt, choose the sweater that fits. Make sure your shoes aren't asking for attention when you want your ideas to do that. I've coached engineers who swore clothes didn't matter and then watched their meetings go easier once they swapped wrinkled tees for simple, clean layers. The world reads quickly. Help it read you correctly. The people around you are your climate. If your circle is chronically anxious, sarcastic, or cynical, you will catch those habits like a cold. If your circle is calm, generous, and quietly ambitious, you will catch that instead. This is not about judging friends or building a clique. It's about noticing inputs. Pay attention to how you feel after spending time with certain groups. More hopeful or more bitter? More focused or more scattered? Ready to act or ready to complain? In a practical sense, you can shift your climate by adding one person who stretches you without posturing. Find the colleague who takes ownership when things go sideways and invite them for coffee once a week. Join the running club where people talk about miles, not gossip. Join the local Toastmasters chapter where people practice giving and receiving feedback without flinching. If you can't change your offline circle quickly, curate your digital one. Follow creators who teach, not outrage, and mute feeds that make you feel inferior or furious. Confidence is contagious, so is defeat. Choose what you breathe. Saying no without guilt is the boundary that protects all the other habits. Every untrue yes steals time from something you claim to value. Americans are trained to be nice, and we confuse niceness with saying yes to everything. You do not need to be rude to be real. You need a few stock phrases you can deliver calmly. I don't have the capacity for that this month. That's not a priority for me right now. I can't take this on. But here's a resource that might help. Practice these lines out loud. You'll hear how they sound in your mouth and you'll stop adding defensive explanations. Notice how much resentment you feel when you agree to things you didn't want. That resentment leaks into your tone and makes you less trustworthy. A clean no respects both parties. You keep your commitments to yourself and you stop playing bait and switch with other people's expectations. The moral layer is simple. Your time and attention are finite. Guard them like they are. A morning ritual anchors the day. Rushed mornings make scattered minds. You don't need a 2-hour routine with cold plunges and imported tea. You need a reliable way to center yourself. 5 to 10 minutes is enough. You can journal 3 lines, 1 sentence of gratitude, 1 sentence naming the day's most important task, 1 sentence about the kind of person you want to be while doing it. You can sit quietly and breathe for 30 cycles. Lengthening the exhale. You can read a page from a book that reminds you who you are. Aurelius, Angelo, Baldwin, Keller. You can stretch your hips and back so your body is awake before your inbox. The content matters less than the message. I start the day on purpose. If you have kids or a frantic schedule, do a micro ritual. While the coffee brews, 3 slow breaths. 1 intention, 1 small first action. Over time, that tiny ceremony becomes a cue to occupy your life instead of reacting to it. The habit of speaking clearly and calmly deserves its own drill because your voice is either your ally or your saboteur. Americans respect clarity. Rambling reads as insecurity. Over-explaining reads as apology. Shouting reads as loss of control. You can train 3 skills quickly: structure, pacing, and tone. For structure, use the simplest frame in the world. Point. Reason. Example. Point. We should push the launch by 1 week. The reason is quality. The crash rate is still above threshold on Android. Here's the data from the last 2 builds and what we're fixing. A 1-week delay buys us a clean MVP and keeps trust with early users. Deliver it at a pace that lets people track. If you feel your pulse spike, take a sip of water or pause to check a note. That pause reads as control, not confusion. Tone gets better when you lower your shoulders and loosen your jaw. Tension in those places tightens your voice. Record a 90-second update weekly and review it with a friendly eye. You'll hear progress within a month. Smile genuinely, listen more, speak calmly, and dress with purpose are the social surface of confidence. The foundation under the surface is the private work, sleep, food, movement, and self-talk. Tiny wins that build trust. A morning ritual that makes you the author of your day. Boundaries that keep you honest. A circle that lifts your average. When those are in place, your posture and gaze stop being a pose. They become a reflection. That's why the Stoics link dignity of bearing with discipline of mind. You can hold yourself upright in a crisis not because you're faking it but because you've rehearsed self-control in 100 small ways that no one applauded. 2 practical weeks can change your trajectory. Week 1. Pick 3 habits. Posture reps in public spaces. 1 small win before noon. And a 10-minute morning ritual. Track them on paper. Don't aim for perfection. Aim for 5 days out of 7. Notice how your tone improves in afternoon meetings when you've already notched a win. Notice how much easier eye contact gets when you've done your morning anchor. Week 2. Add 3 more. 1 no you've been avoiding. Clothing chosen the night before for the message you want to send. And 1 conversation where you ask 2 questions before offering advice. Keep the paper tracking. If you miss a day, don't turn it into a story. Get back to the next rep. The speed of change will surprise you. Not because the habits are dramatic but because they're stacked. Confidence compounds like interest when the inputs are daily and boring. Examples are everywhere. Think of the nurse on the night shift who steadies a worried family by speaking gently and looking them in the eye, even though she's on her 10th hour. Think of the high schooler who hates public speaking but volunteers to introduce a friend at the pep rally and practices a calm opening line 3 times in the mirror. Think of the manager who buys 3 crisp shirts that fit, trims his email responses by half, and starts finishing 1 important task before reading Slack each morning. Within a quarter he's promoted. And nothing big happened. Think of a parent who used to say yes to every PTA ask and now says, "Not this semester," and notices her patience return at dinner. Think of a junior developer who changes nothing about her code but stops calling herself stupid when she hits a bug 3 months later. She's shipping more because she's not wasting energy on self-scolding. None of these people waited for a personality transplant. They changed a handful of daily levers. 2 pitfalls to avoid. Copying and perfectionism. It's tempting to imitate someone else's persona, wholesale someone's cadence, wardrobe, even their catchphrases. That usually rings hollow. Borrow tactics, not identity. Keep what fits your temperament. The second trap is trying to win at habits like a checklist robot. Real life is messy. You'll oversleep. Your kid will get sick. The sprint will explode. The flight will get cancelled. Winners miss and return. The discipline is not the streak, it's the return. Being kind to yourself is not softness, it's fuel. Beat yourself up for a miss and you're less likely to try tomorrow. Disciplined self-respect says, reset, next rep. If you want a simple daily map that ties the 12 themes together, use this. Start the morning with a small centering ritual. Get 1 small, meaningful win before you open the floodgates. Carry yourself with upright ease. Make eye contact on purpose. Wear clothes that match your message. Eat in a way that keeps your energy even. Go outside briefly. Speak slowly and clearly. Listen fully and reflect back. Replace 1 self-insult with a fair line. Say 1 honest no. End the day by noting 1 brick you laid. Do that for a month and read your journal. You won't need a pep talk to keep going. You'll have evidence. None of this requires extraordinary talent or a personality transplant. It requires ordinary decisions made on purpose. Confidence is not a mood you chase, it's a structure you build. The habits outlined here are beams and bolts. Put them up, keep them up, and your personality stops being something you worry about and becomes something you use. The paradox is that once you stop auditioning for confidence and start behaving like a person who has its steady posture, clear speech, humble listening, honest boundaries, you begin to feel the thing you were trying to fake. Confidence becomes a side effect of integrity, and that, more than applause or outcomes, is what lasts. Before a single word leaves your lips, your body has already made an introduction. Humans are wired to scan for signals of safety, authority, and trustworthiness long before language even registers. That's why posture, eye contact, and physical presence carry such disproportionate weight in shaping how others see you and, more importantly, how you see yourself. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote that posture is not about vanity but discipline. He understood that the way you carry yourself reflects the state of your inner command. Modern science backs him up. Posture influences breathing, hormone regulation, and cognitive performance. In short, the body is not just a messenger, it's a teacher. It teaches you and the people around you who you are in that moment. Think about the countless times you've watched someone walk into a room and felt an immediate impression before they opened their mouth. Shoulders rounded, eyes darting toward the floor, arms tucked tight into their sides. Everything about that person whispers, "I'm insecure. I don't want to be noticed." On the other hand, when someone enters with a steady gaze, shoulders relaxed but not slouched, chest open, and breathing unhurried, the signal is completely different. "I belong here. I can handle this. You can trust me." This is not magic, and it's not even charisma in the Hollywood sense. It's simply body language shaping perception in real time. Posture is the foundation. If your body is folded in on itself, your lungs compress, your breathing shortens, and your voice loses resonance. That physical reality feeds back into your brain as tension and doubt. Conversely, when you stand tall, distribute your weight evenly, and allow your body to relax into an upright position, you create a feedback loop that supports calm and confidence. Harvard researchers once studied power poses, wide stances, arms spread to see if they raised testosterone and lowered cortisol. Later replications challenged some of the hormonal claims. But what no study disputed was the behavioral effect. People who assumed expansive postures tended to act more assertively and felt more in control. The psychological link between posture and presence is undeniable. Eye contact is the second pillar of presence, and it's one of the fastest ways to signal either insecurity or groundedness. Too little eye contact, eyes constantly flicking away, glued to the floor, or darting nervously tells people that you don't feel comfortable in your skin. Too much staring without blinking or locking in like it's a duel feels aggressive and can alienate. The balance is a steady, calm gaze that conveys, "I see you. I am here. I am not afraid to be seen." Americans, in particular, interpret consistent eye contact as honesty and reliability. Watch any great communicator, from Barack Obama answering tough questions to Oprah Winfrey interviewing a guest, and you'll see the same rhythm: look, hold, soften, release. It's not mechanical, it's human. Breath ties posture and eye contact together. If your breathing is shallow, everything else suffers. You talk faster, your voice shakes, your shoulders tighten. People can feel the tension even if they can't identify its source. Deep, steady breathing anchors your body, slows your cadence, and makes it easier to maintain eye contact without strain. Singers and actors train breath control not just to hit notes but to project presence. You don't need to train like a performer, but you can practice the basics. Before walking into a meeting, pause for 3 slow breaths, inhaling fully into your diaphragm and exhaling twice as long. That tiny reset changes the quality of your presence instantly. Real-world examples make this clear. Picture a job interview panel. Candidate walks in, shuffles their feet, avoids eye contact, and sits hunched forward. Their answers might be brilliant, but the interviewers are already fighting the impression that this person lacks confidence. Candidate B, on the other hand, walks in with measured steps, offers a firm but not crushing handshake, meets each interviewer's gaze briefly, sits upright with relaxed shoulders, and breathes steadily before speaking. Even if candidate B's answers are only average, the panel feels reassured. They trust this person more quickly, because their body says, "I can handle pressure." This is why so many managers write feedback like, "We knew we could trust him the moment he entered." It's not about words, it's about presence. You can test this in everyday settings. Next time you walk into a coffee shop, pay attention to how the barista reacts when you look down at your phone the whole time versus when you stand tall. Smile, and make eye contact as you order. You'll notice a subtle but real difference. People are drawn to you when your body language signals ease and self-respect. The same goes for walking down the street. Ever notice how joggers or athletes move? Upright, rhythmically, eyes forward. They look confident even when they're exhausted. You can borrow that same physical script in ordinary life. Sports offer another familiar illustration. Watch a basketball player at the free throw line. Shoulders slumped, head down, quick breaths they miss more often. Shoulders squared, steady breathing, eyes fixed calmly on the rim they hit their shots. It's not mystical, it's physiology aligning with focus. The same applies in classrooms, offices, even family dinners. Your kids, your colleagues, your friends, everyone reads your posture and eye contact constantly, and they mirror it back. This is why the Stoics emphasized carrying yourself with dignity regardless of circumstances. Marcus Aurelius led Rome during plagues and wars. He understood that even when everything is chaotic, the way you hold yourself is a declaration of inner order. It's discipline embodied. When you keep your posture steady and your gaze calm, you're not faking confidence, you're practicing integrity in physical form. The young engineer I once coached proves the point. In his first interviews, he trembled, rushed his words, and avoided eye contact. We didn't start with mock questions. We started with posture drills. Each morning, he stood tall in front of a mirror, rolled his shoulders back, practiced breathing deep into his belly, and held his gaze at his own reflection. Slowly, he learned to calm his nervous system with his body. By the time his second interview came around, the hiring manager didn't comment on his technical skills first, they said. We trusted him the moment he walked in. Nothing magical happened, he simply let his body deliver the message his words couldn't. The larger lesson is that presence is not a mask you put on at the last second. It's the accumulation of small, daily habits. Each time you straighten your posture when you feel yourself collapsing. Each time you hold eye contact for a second longer than your fear wants. Each time you breathe deeply before you answer instead of rushing, that's a rep. Just like lifting weights, those reps build strength, and eventually, the strength becomes automatic. You stop reminding yourself to stand tall, you just stand tall. You stop psyching yourself up to meet someone's eyes, you just meet them. In American culture, where first impressions are made in seconds, this matters profoundly. Whether you're at a job fair, a networking event, or even just meeting your kid's teacher, your body speaks before your resume or your talking points. And the beauty of it is that you can practice anywhere. You don't need a special gym. You need a willingness to notice and adjust. Stand taller in line at the grocery store. Relax your shoulders when you pump gas. Hold a calm gaze when you say thank you at the drive-thru. These small, unglamorous practices rewire your baseline. Confidence is not about pretending to be someone else. It's about teaching your mind that you are safe, capable, and present. The body is the fastest way to send that lesson. Before words, the body speaks. If you train it to say, I belong here, the rest of you will start to believe it. Confidence does not start in the spotlight. It is not born when you step on a stage, present a project at work, or lead a team meeting. True confidence is built quietly, in the hours when no one is watching. The way you treat yourself when the world is not looking becomes the foundation of how you carry yourself when everyone is. This is why self-care, rest, and proper nutrition are not luxuries. They're the invisible work of building self-respect. In American culture, we often glorify the hustle, working late into the night, skipping meals, staying glued to our phones, drinking too much coffee to push through exhaustion. We admire the entrepreneur who brags about sleeping 4 hours a night, or the manager who sends emails at 2 a.m., as if suffering is a badge of honor. But beneath that culture of grind, there is a dangerous message being sent to the subconscious. My body doesn't matter. My health doesn't matter. I am only valuable when I am producing. Over time, that message erodes the very confidence these people are trying to project. Think about someone you've worked with who constantly looked tired, cranky, and burned out. Even if they were technically skilled, it was hard to feel inspired by them. Exhaustion doesn't just hurt the body, it drains authority and charisma. I once knew a manager who was proud of his ability to outwork everyone. He bragged about staying up until 3 a.m., living on energy drinks, and skipping vacations for years. At first, his team admired his dedication, but eventually, they stopped respecting him. His decisions became erratic, his temper shortened, people started whispering, "He's a mess," behind his back. Meanwhile, another leader in the same company did the opposite. She prioritized rest, She set boundaries around her time. She made sure to exercise regularly, to eat decent meals instead of junk food grabbed between meetings, and to take real breaks on weekends. She didn't preach about balance, she modeled it. Her team noticed that she always showed up calm, focused, and full of energy. They trusted her judgment because she radiated clarity. Respect followed naturally. The contrast between the two leaders was stark, and it had nothing to do with their titles or paychecks. It was about the way they treated themselves when no one was watching. Sleep is the cornerstone of self-care, yet it's one of the first things people sacrifice. In the US, there's a toxic myth that sleeping less makes you more productive or more ambitious. "I'll sleep when I'm dead," people joke, as if rest is laziness. In reality, lack of sleep is one of the fastest ways to destroy confidence. When you are sleep deprived, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for decision-making, emotional regulation, and self-control, literally shuts down. You become more reactive, more anxious, and more prone to negative thinking. It's no wonder that arguments flare up in households late at night, or that bad business decisions often happen after long days with no rest. Imagine going into a job interview or giving a big presentation after only 4 hours of sleep. Even if you try to act confident, your body betrays you, your voice shakes, your thoughts scatter, and your posture collapses. On the other hand, when you are well rested, your presence changes. You walk into a room with a steady gaze. Your voice carries naturally. You can handle challenges without snapping. Prioritizing sleep is not selfish, it's strategic. It is an act of telling yourself, "I am worthy of care, and I will show up for myself so I can show up for others." Nutrition is equally vital, though it's often ignored. In modern life, many people eat on autopilot. We grab fast food while driving, gulp down coffee after coffee to fight fatigue, or skip meals entirely during busy workdays. The problem is that food is not just fuel, it's information for your body and brain. When you rely on sugar, processed carbs, and endless caffeine, your blood sugar spikes and crashes, causing mood swings and brain fog. It's almost impossible to feel confident when you are jittery, irritable, or mentally foggy. Think about a time when you were hangry, hungry, and angry at the same time. Did you feel calm and capable? Or did you snap at someone you care about? Even small changes in nutrition can have a huge impact. Eating a breakfast with protein instead of just sugary cereal stabilizes your energy. Drinking water regularly prevents fatigue and headaches. Packing a simple lunch instead of skipping meals keeps you sharp for afternoon meetings. You don't need a perfect diet to feel the difference. You just need consistency. Consider how many American workers hit the 3 p.m. slump and immediately reach for another cup of coffee or a sugary snack. Instead, a walk outside and a handful of nuts or fruit could do more to restore focus. Confidence is much easier to access when your body is supported rather than sabotaged. Spending time in nature might seem like a luxury in busy urban life, but it's actually essential for mental health. Research consistently shows that even short periods of exposure to natural environments reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure, and improve mood. There's a reason people feel refreshed after a weekend camping trip or even just an afternoon at the park. Nature reminds us of scale and perspective. It pulls us out of the constant noise of notifications, deadlines, and screens. A simple walk in a nearby park during lunch break can reset your nervous system in ways no phone app can replicate. Think about how many famous American writers and thinkers, from Henry David Thoreau to Maya Angelou, found inspiration in quiet, natural spaces. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius also wrote about the importance of retreating into the self, which often happened in solitude or in nature. When you allow yourself these moments, you are again sending a signal to your subconscious, "My inner world matters. I am worth the time it takes to restore balance." Self-care goes beyond sleep, food, and nature. It includes the daily rituals that build respect for yourself. This could be as simple as making your bed each morning, taking a shower even when you don't feel like it, or setting aside time to read a book instead of scrolling endlessly on social media. These small acts seem insignificant, but they add up. When you consistently take care of your physical space and your body, you develop a quiet trust in yourself. You begin to feel like someone worth showing up for. That feeling naturally spills over into how others treat you. People subconsciously take cues from how you treat yourself. If you neglect your body, run yourself ragged, and constantly put others' needs before your own, you send a message to the world: I am not important. And unfortunately, people will often believe you. On the other hand, when you care for yourself with consistency, others are more likely to respect you. They see you as someone who values their own time and energy, and they respond accordingly. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that confidence comes only from external achievements. They believe that if they just get the promotion, lose the weight, or buy the fancy car, they will finally feel confident. But external achievements can be taken away. Titles change. Applause fades. The kind of confidence that lasts comes from internal stability. And internal stability comes from self-care. It's like building a house. You can decorate the exterior all you want, but if the foundation is cracked, the whole structure will eventually collapse. Self-care is the foundation. Without it, no amount of external success can compensate. Consider the culture of professional burnout in the United States. Many high-achieving professionals push themselves to the edge, thinking they can outwork their self-doubt. Lawyers pulling 80-hour weeks. Tech workers coding until dawn. Medical residents on endless shifts. Society rewards their sacrifice in the short term, but the long-term cost is enormous. Broken relationships, chronic illness, depression, and anxiety. Some even experience imposter syndrome more intensely as they achieve more, because they have neglected the inner work. They look successful on paper but feel empty inside. This is why you sometimes see headlines about a celebrity or CEO who had it all, and yet crumbled under pressure. Without a foundation of self-care, the weight of external expectations becomes unbearable. The good news is that rebuilding this foundation doesn't require dramatic changes. It starts with small, consistent actions. Go to bed 30 minutes earlier tonight instead of scrolling on your phone. Drink a glass of water first thing in the morning. Take a 10-minute walk during your lunch break. Schedule one evening a week with no screens. Just reading or journaling. These may sound like minor habits, but they are powerful because they teach your brain a new story: I am worth the effort. Over time, these signals accumulate. You begin to feel different, not because the world has changed, but because your relationship with yourself has changed. That feeling becomes visible to others, even if you never say a word about it. A practical example of this is the way parents model behavior for their children. Kids don't just listen to what adults say, they watch what adults do. A parent who constantly neglects their own needs, never resting, always stressed, always putting others first, teaches their children that self-neglect is normal. Those kids grow up to repeat the same patterns, often feeling guilty if they ever prioritize themselves. On the other hand, a parent who demonstrates healthy boundaries, who shows their children that rest and play are important, gives them a blueprint for balanced living. This is why self-care is not selfish, it's a form of leadership. By taking care of yourself, you set an example that ripples outward. In workplaces, too, leaders who model self-care create healthier cultures. Imagine two companies. In the first, the boss sends emails at midnight, never takes a vacation, and expects instant responses at all hours. Employees live in constant fear and exhaustion. Turnover is high, and innovation suffers because people are too burned out to think creatively. In the second company, the boss sets clear boundaries. She leaves work at a reasonable hour, encourages breaks, and talks openly about the importance of mental health. In this environment, employees feel safe to take care of themselves. Productivity actually increases because people are rested and engaged. This is not just theory. Companies like Patagonia and Basecamp have built their entire brand around sustainable work cultures. And their success proves that respecting human limits is good business. Culturally, Americans are beginning to shift toward a better understanding of self-care. The rise of wellness trends, mental health awareness campaigns, and even movements like quiet quitting reflect a growing recognition that endless hustle is not sustainable. However, there's also a danger of turning self-care into another form of performance. Buying expensive spa products or posting perfectly curated self-care Sundays on Instagram misses the point. True self-care is not about aesthetics, it's about function. It's not about looking like you have it all together. It's about doing the boring, unglamorous work of meeting your own basic needs consistently. It's about saying no to one more meeting so you can sleep. Choosing a nourishing meal over fast food. Or sitting quietly with your thoughts instead of numbing out with endless entertainment. These acts are not glamorous, but they are profound. Another overlooked aspect of self-care is emotional hygiene. Just as you brush your teeth to prevent decay, you need practices to keep your inner world clean. This might include journaling to process emotions, talking to a therapist, or setting boundaries with toxic people. Emotional neglect is as damaging as physical neglect. If you carry unresolved anger, grief, or resentment, it will show up in your body and behavior. You might notice yourself snapping at loved ones, feeling constantly on edge, or sinking into cynicism. Regular emotional check-ins are essential. Even a simple nightly habit of writing down 3 things you're grateful for can shift your mindset over time. Gratitude is not a cliché, it's a proven way to rewire the brain toward positivity. When you focus on what is working instead of only what is wrong, you build resilience, and resilience is the bedrock of confidence. In a world obsessed with external validation, it takes courage to prioritize the invisible work of self-care. You won't get applause for going to bed early or eating a balanced meal. No one will congratulate you for taking a walk in the park or saying no to a draining commitment. But these quiet choices are what build the kind of confidence that lasts. They are the bricks in the foundation of a life that feels stable and meaningful. When you treat yourself as someone worthy of care, you begin to act like someone worthy of respect. Others pick up on that energy. They see it in your posture, your voice, your decisions. They trust you because you trust yourself. Ultimately, self-care, rest, and respect are inseparable. You cannot truly respect yourself while neglecting your basic needs. You cannot rest deeply if you believe you are only valuable when you are working. And you cannot care for others effectively if you are running on empty. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote about the importance of retreating into oneself to find strength. Today, we might translate that as taking time to recharge, to care for the body and mind so that we can meet the world with clarity. Confidence is not built in public moments of performance. It is built in the private, invisible hours when you decide to treat yourself with dignity. When you do this consistently, you create a stable base from which everything else flows: your work, your relationships, your sense of purpose, and that is the kind of confidence no external achievement can take away. Smiling genuinely is one of the simplest yet most powerful tools a person has in social interaction. It requires no money, no special education, and no special timing, yet its effect on people is profound. A real smile has a way of breaking down walls and softening tension in even the most difficult situations. Think about how many times you've walked into a store or restaurant and been greeted by someone who smiled at you with genuine warmth. Even if you were having a terrible day, that simple moment probably made you feel just a little bit lighter. In contrast, when someone offers a fake smile or no smile at all, you sense it immediately. In American culture, a genuine smile communicates friendliness and trustworthiness. It makes others feel safe and valued. But a fake smile, like those forced customer service expressions, actually has the opposite effect. It feels like a mask, and people instinctively pull back. This is why authenticity matters so much. A real smile isn't about showing perfect teeth or striking a certain pose. It's about aligning your outward expression with a genuine sense of goodwill inside. Even if your life isn't perfect, you can still choose to smile sincerely at others. Not because everything is perfect, but because you want to create a moment of connection. Smiling has been studied extensively in psychology, and research confirms what we intuitively know. People who smile authentically are perceived as more approachable, more confident, and even more competent. This is one reason why leaders who smile tend to inspire loyalty. Consider how often you see American politicians or CEOs smiling when greeting crowds. The smile sets the tone. Think of figures like Barack Obama or Oprah Winfrey. Their ability to smile in a way that feels real helps people relax and listen. It's not about manipulation, it's about communicating presence and calm. A genuine smile can also diffuse conflict. Imagine a heated meeting at work where tensions are high. A leader who walks in with a calm, warm smile signals, "I am here to solve this, not to escalate it." That simple signal can change the entire emotional temperature of the room. On a personal level, even small interactions benefit from this habit. When you thank a barista, smile. When you greet your neighbor, smile. These micro moments accumulate and shape how people perceive you and how you perceive yourself. Over time, smiling genuinely becomes part of your identity. Listening deeply is another habit that transforms relationships and builds confidence. Though it's often misunderstood, many people believe confidence means talking a lot, dominating conversations, or always having the right answer. In reality, the most confident people are often the quietest. They don't need to prove themselves with constant chatter. They create space for others to speak, and they listen with full attention. When you truly listen, you make the other person feel seen and valued. This is incredibly magnetic. Think about the last time someone really listened to you, not just nodded along while waiting for their turn to speak, but actually absorbed what you were saying. How did that feel? Probably calming, maybe even healing. Now imagine giving that gift to others. Deep listening builds trust faster than any clever words. It's why great therapists, interviewers, and negotiators spend more time listening than talking. In everyday life, listening deeply means slowing down and resisting the urge to interrupt or immediately offer advice. It's about paying attention not just to words, but to tone, body language, and what's left unsaid. In American workplaces, where meetings are often fast-paced and competitive, the person who listens carefully stands out. They are the ones who can summarize a problem clearly, who catch the nuances others miss, and who build real connections with colleagues. A practical tip for better listening is to repeat back what you've heard in your own words. For example, if a coworker is venting about a frustrating project, you might say, "It sounds like the biggest challenge isn't the deadline itself, but the lack of clear communication between teams." This simple act shows that you understand and care, which deepens trust. It also prevents misunderstandings. Another helpful practice is asking clarifying questions before giving your opinion. Instead of rushing to solve, pause and ask, "Can you tell me more about that?" Or, "What do you think would help most right now?" This slows down the conversation and shifts it from a debate to a dialogue. Over time, people will associate you with calmness and wisdom, simply because you listen well. Speaking calmly, rather than loudly, is a mark of true confidence. In a culture where so many people equate volume with strength, this can seem counterintuitive, but think about the leaders and public figures who have the greatest impact. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speeches were powerful not because he shouted, but because his words were clear and his tone steady. When someone speaks calmly, people lean in to listen. When someone yells, people tune out or become defensive. Calm speech also helps you maintain control over your emotions. When you lower your voice slightly and slow your pace, you naturally feel more centered. This technique is especially useful in arguments or high-stress situations. If someone else is raising their voice, you don't have to match them. In fact, speaking calmly can actually de-escalate tension. It signals to others that you are in control, and that makes them more likely to follow your lead. Speaking calmly also improves clarity. Americans often value directness, but directness doesn't mean speed or harshness. You can be firm without being aggressive. A practical way to practice calm speech is to record yourself talking about something important. Play it back and notice your pacing, your tone, and whether you use filler words like, or, you know. Many people speak much faster than they realize, especially when nervous. Slow down just a bit, and you'll sound more thoughtful and authoritative. Another tip is to pause briefly before answering questions. This gives you a moment to gather your thoughts and signals that you are deliberate, not reactive. In professional settings, a calm voice carries more weight than frantic energy. Imagine two job candidates answering the same tough question. One rushes through a long, rambling answer, speaking too fast and too loudly. The other takes a breath, pauses, and responds clearly and steadily. Which one seems more confident and competent? Almost always, it's the second candidate. While smiling, listening, and calm speech are personal habits you can practice individually. Your environment is the context that shapes all of them. Your environment is like a hidden sculptor, constantly molding your personality whether you notice it or not. The people you spend the most time with influence your thoughts, your habits, and even your language. If you surround yourself with anxious, negative, or complaining people, it's almost impossible to stay confident and optimistic. Doubt multiplies in such an environment. You start to absorb their fears and frustrations, even if you don't agree with them. On the other hand, if you spend time with resilient, solution-focused people, their confidence rubs off on you. This is why support groups, mastermind circles, and mentorship programs are so powerful. They provide a positive environment that reinforces growth. There's a famous saying by Jim Rohn: "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." This may not be mathematically exact, but it's psychologically true. Think about your own circle. Are your closest friends and colleagues encouraging you to grow? Or are they reinforcing your doubts? If you're constantly surrounded by gossipers, pessimists, or people who mock ambition, it will be much harder to change your own habits. It's like trying to swim upstream against a strong current. Conversely, when you place yourself in a group of builders, people who take responsibility, who dream big but act practically, you find it easier to elevate your own behavior. This doesn't mean abandoning old friends or cutting people out harshly. It means being intentional about where you spend your time and energy. You can still love people who are struggling, but you don't have to let their mindset define yours. Consider a common example: a friend who decides to improve their health. If they continue hanging out with people who constantly eat junk food, skip workouts, and joke about being unhealthy, their progress will be slow. Every choice feels like a battle. But if they join a running club, a yoga class, or even an online fitness group, they suddenly have a supportive environment. The same effort produces better results because the context has changed. The same principle applies to career growth. If you want to start a business, being around entrepreneurs will normalize the risks and challenges. If you want to become a better speaker, spending time with Toastmasters or similar groups will make improvement feel natural. Environment doesn't just influence behavior, it shapes identity. The story of a friend illustrates this power vividly. He didn't change his skills overnight. He didn't take new courses or suddenly gain new talents. What he did change was his circle. He moved away from a group of friends who spent their evenings gossiping, complaining, and avoiding responsibility. Instead, he began spending time with people who were building things, businesses, creative projects, community initiatives. Within a few months, the change was dramatic. His speech patterns shifted, his posture improved, even his career trajectory began to rise. Because he started believing in new possibilities. Nothing inside him magically transformed. The environment simply pulled different qualities to the surface. This is exactly what the Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned about. If you spend time with the crooked, you will bend. With the straight, you will stand. It's a timeless truth. Environment also includes the media you consume. In the digital age, your phone is part of your environment. The accounts you follow on social media, the podcasts you listen to, the shows you binge, they all shape your mindset. If your feed is full of outrage, negativity, and comparison, you will feel anxious and inadequate, even if nothing in your actual life has changed. On the other hand, if you curate your digital environment to include inspiring voices, educational content, and positive communities, you will notice a shift in your mood and confidence. This is especially important for younger generations who spend hours online each day. Your digital diet is as important as your physical diet. Be mindful of what you're feeding your mind. Changing your environment doesn't always mean making dramatic moves like quitting your job or moving to a new city. Sometimes it's as simple as adding one positive influence. Join a book club where people discuss ideas instead of gossip. Schedule regular coffee meetings with a mentor who challenges you to think bigger. Volunteer with a group that's making a difference in your community. These small shifts create ripples that gradually transform your inner world. Over time, you'll notice that your habits align more easily with your values because you're no longer fighting constant negative pressure. When you combine the power of a genuine smile, deep listening, calm speech, and a supportive environment, you create a social mirror that reflects and amplifies your best self. Each of these elements reinforces the others. Smiling makes listening easier because it builds trust. Listening makes speech more effective because you understand what truly matters to others. Calm speech stabilizes group dynamics, creating a safer environment for everyone. And a positive environment gives you the energy to keep practicing these habits. Even when life gets difficult, the result is a virtuous cycle. Your inner confidence grows, which improves your outer interactions. which in turn strengthen your inner confidence. These habits are not about pretending to be someone you're not. They are about expressing the best version of yourself consistently. When you smile genuinely, people sense that you are approachable and secure. When you listen deeply, they feel valued and respected. When you speak calmly, they trust your judgment. And when you choose your environment wisely, you give yourself the best chance to keep growing. Over time, these choices compound. You find that you no longer have to force confidence or fake charisma. They emerge naturally, because your social mirror is reflecting the reality of who you've become. Your mind is a battlefield, and the conversations you have with yourself determine whether you emerge victorious or defeated. Every thought you repeat to yourself, every phrase you whisper in your head, acts like a seed. If you repeatedly tell yourself, "I'm useless, I'll never figure this out," or "I'm not good enough," those seeds grow into a forest of self-doubt that eventually becomes your reality. The brain doesn't distinguish between truth and habit, it believes what you feed it. This is why Stoic philosophers like Epictetus emphasized that perception is everything. It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it. That determines your experience. When you replace destructive inner dialogue with empowering language, you begin to program resilience instead of defeat. It's like installing new software. The moment you catch yourself saying, "This is too hard," you can rewrite it. "This is hard, but I can learn." That small shift in wording opens the door for growth instead of closing it with despair. Negative self-talk often starts so subtly that we don't even notice it. For example, imagine someone learning a new skill, like cooking or coding. After one mistake, a burnt dish or a broken program, they immediately sigh and say, "I'm terrible at this." That statement becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Each time they repeat it, their brain strengthens the neural pathway that associates effort with failure. Over time, they stop trying altogether, not because they lack ability, but because they've trained themselves to expect failure. Contrast that with someone who experiences the same mistake but frames it differently. "This didn't work, but I'm figuring it out." Their brain connects effort with progress. They keep going, and eventually, they succeed. It's not magic, it's psychology. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on experience and thought patterns. In essence, your inner voice is constantly shaping the architecture of your mind. Consider how common this is in everyday American life. A student who struggles with math might mutter, "I'm just bad at numbers," while another says, "I haven't learned this yet." The first mindset shuts down potential, while the second keeps the door open. The same thing happens in workplaces. An employee who tells himself, "My boss hates me," begins to see every interaction through that lens, becoming defensive and withdrawn. Another employee, facing the same challenges, thinks, "My boss has high expectations, and I can rise to meet them." That subtle difference changes their behavior and, ultimately, their career trajectory. Even in sports, you can see the impact of self-talk. Legendary athletes like Serena Williams or Michael Jordan didn't just train their bodies, they trained their minds. When they missed a shot or lost a match, they didn't spiral into self-blame. Instead, they reframed it as data, a lesson to improve. That mental resilience is what separates champions from everyone else. One practical way to start changing negative self-talk is to treat your inner voice like a coach rather than a critic. Imagine a basketball coach yelling at their player, "You're hopeless. You'll never make a shot." That player would crumble, yet many of us speak to ourselves in exactly that way every day. A good coach, on the other hand, points out mistakes but focuses on solutions. "You missed because your stance was off. Adjust and try again." You can be that kind of coach to yourself. When you notice a harsh thought, pause and rewrite it. If you catch yourself thinking, "I'm so stupid," replace it with, "I made a mistake, but I'm learning." At first, it will feel awkward, even fake, but over time, your brain starts to believe the new script. Just like learning a new language, repetition builds fluency. Journaling can help with this process. Write down negative thoughts as they occur. Then write a more constructive version next to them. Over weeks, you'll notice patterns and start catching the thoughts earlier, before they spiral out of control. While self-talk sets the stage internally, building confidence externally relies on action. This is where the concept of small wins comes in. In a culture obsessed with big leaps, viral success, overnight transformations, dramatic before and after stories, it's easy to forget that real change happens incrementally. Confidence isn't built by climbing Mount Everest in a day. It's built by taking one step, then another, without quitting. The human brain loves progress, but it gets overwhelmed by massive goals. When a goal feels too big, we procrastinate or give up entirely. Small wins solve this problem by creating momentum. Each tiny success provides evidence that you are capable. Over time, those wins stack up, forming a foundation of self-trust. Consider the difference between two people who both want to get in shape. Person A sets a huge goal. I will work out for 2 hours every day and lose 30 pounds in a month. That goal is so unrealistic that failure is almost guaranteed. When they inevitably miss a day, they feel ashamed and quit. Person B takes a different approach. I will do 5 minutes of exercise today. 5 minutes is so small it's almost laughable, but it's achievable. The next day, they do 5 minutes again. Eventually, 5 minutes becomes 10, then 20. After a month, they've built a consistent habit. The weight loss happens naturally. And more importantly, they've built trust with themselves. The lesson is clear. Confidence grows not from grand gestures but from kept promises. Every time you follow through on a small commitment, you reinforce the belief, I can rely on myself. This principle applies to every area of life. A writer doesn't finish a novel in one sitting. They commit to writing 200 words a day, no matter what. After a year, they have a manuscript. A student doesn't master a subject by cramming once before an exam. They study for 15 minutes each night, building knowledge steadily. Even relationships thrive on small wins. Saying, thank you, sending a thoughtful text, or taking time to listen, all these tiny actions accumulate into deep trust over time. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, famously said, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Small wins are the system. They transform abstract dreams into tangible progress. To make small wins effective, they must be specific and measurable. Be healthier is vague. Drink 1 extra glass of water today is clear. Be more productive is abstract. Write down 3 priorities before checking email is actionable. Start by breaking your goals into pieces so small they seem almost trivial. If you want to save money, begin by saving $1 a day. If you want to read more, start with 1 page a night. These actions might feel insignificant, but they are like compounding interest in a bank account. Over time, the results grow exponentially. The psychological impact is just as important as the practical one. Each small win creates a dopamine hit in the brain, reinforcing the behavior and making it easier to repeat. Soon, progress becomes addictive in the best way. While small wins build confidence through action, another critical skill protects that confidence: the ability to say no. Many people struggle with this because they equate saying no with rejection or selfishness. They fear disappointing others or being seen as unhelpful. As a result, they say yes to everything: extra projects at work, social events they don't enjoy, favors they don't have time for. Each false yes chips away at their self-respect. It sends a message to their subconscious: my needs don't matter. My time is not valuable. Over time, resentment builds. They become exhausted, bitter, and less effective in every area of life. The irony is that constant people-pleasing often leads to the very rejection they were trying to avoid. When you overcommit and underdeliver, trust erodes. Learning to say no is an act of courage and protection. It's not about shutting doors, it's about opening the right ones. Every time you say no to something that doesn't align with your values, you create space for what truly matters. Think of your life as a garden. If you plant too many seeds, none of them will grow well because they're competing for limited resources. Saying no is like pulling weeds. It allows your most important commitments to thrive. In practical terms, this means getting comfortable with simple, respectful phrases. I appreciate the invitation, but I can't commit right now. That's not a priority for me at the moment. I don't have the bandwidth to take that on. You don't need long explanations or excuses. A clean, calm no is enough. Consider the workplace scenario. Imagine an employee who says yes to every request. At first, they seem like a team player. But soon, they're drowning in tasks. Deadlines slip, quality drops, their stress level skyrockets. Eventually, their boss begins to question their reliability. Now imagine another employee who carefully evaluates each request. They say yes to projects where they can truly add value and no to those that would stretch them too thin. Their workload stays manageable, and their output remains high. Over time, they earn a reputation for dependability and clear boundaries. The second employee is actually more respected, even though they say no more often. This is the paradox. Boundaries breed respect, not resentment. The fear of saying no often comes from childhood conditioning. Many of us were taught to be nice, to avoid conflict, and to prioritize others' feelings over our own. While kindness is valuable, chronic self-sacrifice is not. In American culture, especially, there's a tendency to glorify busyness. People compete over who is busiest, as if exhaustion equals importance. Saying no disrupts this pattern. It challenges the narrative that your worth is measured by how much you do for others. It reclaims your time as sacred. When you start setting boundaries, expect some pushback. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries may resist the change. That discomfort is temporary. In the long run, healthy relationships will adapt, and unhealthy ones may fade away. Combining these three elements: positive self-talk, small wins, and the courage to say no creates a powerful cycle of confidence. When you speak to yourself with compassion, you build an inner foundation of resilience. When you take small, consistent actions, you prove to yourself that change is possible. And when you protect your time and energy by saying no, you maintain the space needed to grow. Each piece reinforces the others. For example, setting boundaries becomes easier when your self-talk is strong. Small wins become more frequent when you aren't overcommitted, and your inner voice grows more positive as you experience consistent success. To see how this works in real life, imagine someone trying to write a book while working full-time. At first, their self-talk is negative. I'll never finish this. I'm too busy. They also say yes to every social invitation and extra task at work, leaving no time to write. The goal feels overwhelming, and they make no progress. Now imagine they shift their approach. They begin by changing their self-talk. I can write this book, one page at a time. They commit to a small win, writing just 100 words a day. They also start saying no to non-essential commitments, protecting an hour each morning for writing. After a few weeks, they've built momentum. Their confidence grows, not because the book is finished, but because they've proven to themselves that they can show up consistently. Over time, the pages add up, and the finished manuscript becomes a reality. The external success, the completed book, is built on the invisible foundation of internal habits. In relationships, the same principles apply. Imagine a parent who constantly says yes to every school event, work project, and community obligation. They run themselves ragged, then snap at their children out of frustration. Their self-talk is harsh. I'm a terrible parent. By learning to say no to some commitments, they create space for quality time with their kids. They start celebrating small wins, like reading together for 10 minutes each night. As their inner dialogue softens, I'm doing my best. And that matters. Their confidence as a parent grows. The family dynamic improves, not because the world changed, but because one person's internal battlefield shifted toward peace. These habits are not quick fixes. They require patience and practice. There will be setbacks. Some days, negative self-talk will sneak back in. Some weeks, small wins will feel insignificant. Some no's will be met with anger or confusion. That's normal. The key is to keep returning to the process. Each time you catch a cruel thought and replace it with a kinder one, you strengthen your mental muscles. Each time you follow through on a tiny commitment, you add a brick to the foundation of self-trust. Each time you say no to something that drains you, you protect the space where growth happens. Over months and years, these small battles add up to a life of quiet, unshakable confidence. Your mind will always have noise, doubts, and competing voices. The goal isn't to silence them completely, it's to choose which ones you amplify. When you consistently choose self-compassion, incremental progress, and clear boundaries, you win the war one day at a time. The battlefield remains, but you become the general, not the casualty. How you start your morning has an incredible influence on everything that follows. Most people underestimate how much those first few minutes of the day dictate their mood, focus, and confidence levels. When you wake up and immediately rush into chaos checking emails, scrolling through social media, running around trying to find your keys, you set a frantic tone that carries through the rest of the day. Your mind becomes scattered before you've even had breakfast. It's like starting a marathon by sprinting at full speed. You burn out before you even reach the halfway point. In contrast, when you create a consistent morning ritual, even if it's just 10 minutes, you anchor yourself. You begin the day with intention instead of accident. This is why so many high performers, from CEOs to athletes, guard their mornings fiercely. They know that how they enter the day determines how they show up for everything else. A morning ritual doesn't need to be elaborate or Instagram-worthy. In fact, the simpler and more repeatable it is, the better. The key is to choose activities that ground you and remind you of who you are before the outside world tries to define it for you. Journaling is one powerful option. Spending just 10 minutes writing about your thoughts, feelings, and goals helps clear mental clutter. It's like taking out the trash before starting the day. Many people use journaling to practice gratitude by listing 3 things they're thankful for each morning. This simple exercise rewires the brain to notice positives instead of immediately jumping to stress and negativity. Others use journaling to set intentions, writing down the top 3 things they want to focus on that day. By putting it on paper, you signal to your brain, this is what matters. Meditation is another effective tool for centering yourself. You don't have to sit cross-legged on a mountaintop to benefit from meditation. Even 5 minutes of deep breathing can calm your nervous system and reduce anxiety. Apps like Headspace or Calm have made guided meditation accessible to millions of Americans who might have otherwise been intimidated by the practice. Scientific research shows that regular meditation improves focus, lowers stress hormones, and even changes the structure of the brain in positive ways. It's like lifting weights for your mind. Many people report that after just a few weeks of daily meditation, they feel more resilient in the face of challenges. Instead of reacting impulsively, they respond thoughtfully. Stretching or light exercise can also be part of a morning ritual. Our bodies often wake up stiff and sluggish. Taking a few minutes to stretch, do yoga poses, or even walk around the block sends a signal to your brain that it's time to wake up and engage. Movement releases endorphins, which boost mood and energy. It doesn't have to be intense. Even a quick series of stretches while the coffee brews can make a noticeable difference. Think of it as tuning the instrument before playing the symphony of your day. One of the most important aspects of a morning ritual is consistency. The specific activities matter less than the fact that you do them every day. This regularity builds a sense of stability. Life is full of unpredictability, work emergencies, family demands, global news cycles. Your morning ritual becomes a constant, a small space where you have control. This is especially valuable in the fast-paced culture of the United States, where many people feel like they're always reacting to external forces. When you start the day by deliberately choosing your actions, you set a psychological boundary. You tell yourself, I am in charge of how I move through this day. That sense of agency builds confidence over time. Consider some well-known figures and their morning habits. Oprah Winfrey begins her day with meditation and gratitude journaling before she even looks at her phone. Tim Ferriss, author of The 4-Hour Workweek, swears by a combination of meditation, light exercise, and making his bed as a way to create early wins. Even Benjamin Franklin, centuries ago, had a morning routine where he asked himself, "What good shall I do this day?" before planning his schedule. These examples span different eras and industries, but the underlying principle is the same: intentional mornings create empowered days. Morning rituals also provide an opportunity to practice the other habits that build confidence. For instance, positive self-talk can be incorporated through affirmations. Speaking phrases like, "I am capable," "I handle challenges with grace," or "I am focused and ready," might feel strange at first. But repetition matters. Your brain listens to the words you feed it, especially in the quiet moments before the day's chaos begins. Visualization is another technique. Athletes often use this to mentally rehearse success before competitions. You can do the same for a presentation, a tough conversation, or any goal you're pursuing. Close your eyes and picture yourself moving through the day with calm confidence. This mental rehearsal primes your body and mind to act accordingly. A morning ritual also sets the stage for practicing boundaries, particularly the art of saying no. When you begin the day by centering yourself, you're less likely to be swept up by other people's agendas. For example, if you've spent the first 15 minutes of your morning reflecting on your priorities, it becomes easier to decline a last-minute request that doesn't align with them. You have a clear sense of what matters, which makes it less painful to say no. In this way, your ritual becomes a shield, protecting your time and energy before the demands of the world come rushing in. Small wins can be embedded into your morning as well. Something as simple as making your bed or drinking a glass of water first thing gives you a sense of accomplishment. These minor victories create momentum. As productivity expert James Clear notes, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. A consistent morning system provides a reliable foundation for success. It's why military leaders like Admiral William McRaven emphasize the importance of making your bed each morning. It's not about the bed itself, it's about starting the day with a completed task that signals discipline and order. Your environment plays a role in shaping your mornings too. If your bedroom is cluttered, your phone is full of notifications, and your mornings are rushed, it's harder to feel calm. Setting up your space the night before can make a huge difference. Lay out your clothes, prepare breakfast ingredients, or write down your top 3 tasks for the next day. These small acts reduce decision fatigue in the morning, freeing up mental energy for more important things. In American households where mornings are often hectic with kids, commutes, and work deadlines, preparation is key. Even 5 minutes of planning can transform a stressful scramble into a smooth launch. It's important to note that morning rituals look different for everyone. A single parent with young children will have different needs and constraints than a college student or a retiree. The goal isn't to copy someone else's routine but to create one that fits your life. Some people thrive on quiet reflection, while others prefer energizing music or exercise. The common thread is intentionality. Whatever you choose, do it on purpose and do it consistently. One potential pitfall is perfectionism. People sometimes abandon their rituals because they miss a day or two and feel like they've failed. This all-or-nothing thinking is counterproductive. The point of a morning ritual isn't to achieve perfection, it's to create a supportive rhythm. If you miss a day, simply return to it the next morning without guilt. Consistency over time matters far more than flawless execution. This mindset mirrors the broader truth about confidence. It's built through steady practice, not dramatic breakthroughs. Morning rituals are deeply connected to identity. Each time you complete your ritual, you reinforce the story you tell yourself about who you are. If you meditate, journal, or exercise every morning, you begin to see yourself as someone who values growth and discipline. This identity then influences your choices throughout the day. For example, a person who identifies as someone who takes care of their body will naturally make healthier food choices later on. In this way, your ritual becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's not just what you do, it's who you become. There's also a spiritual dimension to morning rituals. Even for those who aren't religious, taking time to connect with yourself, to breathe deeply and reflect, taps into something larger than daily tasks. It creates a sense of meaning. In a world full of distractions and noise, these quiet moments are profoundly grounding. Many Americans find that morning rituals provide a much-needed pause in an otherwise chaotic life. They become a touchstone, a reminder of what truly matters. Science supports the power of morning habits. Studies on willpower and decision-making show that self-control is highest early in the day and diminishes as the day goes on. By tackling important tasks or rituals first thing, you leverage your peak mental energy. This is why many successful people schedule creative work, exercise, or planning sessions in the morning rather than at night. It's also why starting the day reactively immediately checking emails or social media can be so damaging. Those early inputs set the agenda for your brain, often filling it with stress and distraction. A morning ritual acts as a buffer, allowing you to set your own tone before external forces take over. Morning rituals can even improve relationships. When you begin the day calm and centered, you interact with others more positively. Imagine the difference between a parent who yells at their kids to hurry up because they're running late versus a parent who has already grounded themselves through a short ritual. The second parent is more patient, more present, and more loving. Over time, these small interactions shape family dynamics. The same principle applies at work. A leader who starts the day with clarity and focus will communicate more effectively with their team. Their calm presence becomes contagious, influencing the entire workplace culture. Examples abound of how morning rituals change lives. Consider the story of a busy nurse who used to wake up at the last possible minute, rush to work, and feel frazzled all day. After learning about morning rituals, she started waking up 20 minutes earlier to stretch, drink tea, and write down 3 intentions for her shift. Within weeks, she noticed a dramatic difference. Her patients commented on her warmth and attentiveness. Her colleagues started turning to her for leadership. Nothing about her job had changed, only her mornings. Another example is a college student who struggled with anxiety. By adding a 5-minute meditation and journaling session to her mornings, she reduced her stress and improved her grades. These stories illustrate that morning rituals are not just for elite performers. They're for anyone who wants to live with more purpose. In sum, confidence is not a mysterious gift bestowed on a lucky few. It's not something you chase or fake. It's something you build, brick by brick, through daily habits, posture, presence, self-care, genuine smiles, deep listening, calm speech, positive self-talk, small wins, dressing with intention, surrounding yourself with the right people, saying no and anchoring your mornings. Each habit reinforces the others. When you practice them consistently, you stop chasing confidence because you already embody it. It becomes part of who you are. Morning rituals are the keystone habit that holds everything together. They provide the stability needed to practice the other habits throughout the day. When you start each morning with intention, you send a powerful message to yourself and to the world. I am here. I am ready. I choose how this day unfolds. And that, more than any external achievement, is the true foundation of lasting confidence. Now you've discovered 12 powerful daily habits that can completely reshape your confidence and transform your personality. But here's the truth. Knowledge alone doesn't change anything. You can watch this video, nod along, and feel inspired, but if you don't act, nothing in your life will be different tomorrow. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you create through consistent action. These habits are your blueprint, but you are the builder. Think about it. Every time you stand tall and hold steady eye contact, you're sending your brain the message, I belong here. Each time you choose to get enough sleep, eat nourishing food, or take a quiet moment in nature, you're showing yourself respect. Every genuine smile, every moment of deep listening, every calm word you speak builds connection and trust. When you replace harsh self-talk with encouragement, you stop being your own worst enemy and become your greatest ally. Each small win, no matter how tiny, stacks up like bricks, building a fortress of self-trust. And when you learn to say no without guilt, you protect that fortress from being overrun by the demands of others. Finally, when you start each morning with intention, with even a few minutes of journaling, meditation, or stretching, you anchor your entire day in strength. You're no longer reacting to life's chaos. You're leading your life with purpose. These aren't just habits. They're a declaration. I take myself seriously. I respect myself. I am ready to live fully. As you integrate these practices, you'll notice subtle changes at first. Maybe you'll speak up in a meeting where you'd usually stay silent. Maybe you'll walk into a room and feel a little taller, a little more grounded. Maybe you'll set a boundary with someone for the first time, and instead of guilt, you'll feel relief. Over time, these subtle shifts compound. Other people will start to notice. They'll see the way you carry yourself, the way you listen, the way you act with calm authority. They might even ask, what's different about you? And you'll know it's not one big thing. It's the accumulation of daily choices, practiced again and again. Remember, this is not about perfection. You will miss days. You will slip back into old patterns sometimes. That's okay. The goal is not to never fall, it's to always return. Each time you recommit to these habits, you strengthen the muscle of resilience. Confidence isn't about never feeling fear or doubt. It's about moving forward anyway, trusting that you can handle whatever comes. Imagine yourself 1 year from now if you commit to just a few of these habits today. Picture waking up in the morning with a clear mind and a steady heart. Picture walking into any situation, an interview, a date, A presentation knowing that you don't need to perform or impress. You simply need to be. Because you've built a foundation of true confidence. That version of you isn't a fantasy. It's completely possible, and it starts now. If this video resonated with you, if you felt even one spark of hope or inspiration, please take a moment to like it. Your support helps more people find this content and join us on this journey of growth. Share it with a friend or family member who could use a boost of confidence right now. And if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the tools and insights that can help you become the person you're meant to be. Finally, if you'd like to go the extra mile in supporting this work, consider using YouTube's Super Thanks feature. It's a simple way to give back and ensure that I can keep creating high-quality, empowering videos like this one for you and for everyone who needs them. Confidence is not a gift that falls from the sky. It's a practice, a way of living, built one small decision at a time. You now have the map. The next step is yours. So, which habit will you begin with today? Let me know in the comments, and let's encourage each other as we grow together. Thank you for spending this time with me, for investing in yourself, and for believing in the possibility of your own transformation. Until next time, remember this: you don't have to chase confidence. When you live these habits, you become confidence itself, and when you embody confidence, the world can't help but respond.